the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AVWeek, episode 103, recorded Friday, August 9th, 2013. Free wireless.
Ready.
AVWeek.
Performing scan.
AVWeek.
Online.
This is AVWeek. It's time for AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I'm your host, and this week it's not because I'm the only person who showed up. I have guests in studio. It's crazy. First is my good friend. His name is Ben Shipman. He's an independent rep for a ton of very high-quality AV companies. He has his own company, though, and that's how the whole independent rep thing works. How are you, sir?
Well, how are you?
Good. Also with us is Ken Blecher. Ken is the Executive Vice President for Powersoft. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
Good. I learned a whole lot about amplifiers today, guys, so I feel smarter. On the other end of the Skype universe, they're both in the Eastern time zone, so they're 1 hour ahead of us in the universe. John Huntington, the Professor of Entertainment Technology. He also wrote a book, Show Networks and Control Systems. How are you, Mr. Huntington?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And last but not least, my twin brother. His name is Harry Meade, the lead engineer at CCS Presentation Systems, Mid-Atlantic. Hello. How is Harry and Dawn Meade are part of a very nice musical entourage who did an international festival last weekend. How was it?
Wet.
Okay, they went to Canada. So
we went to Canada for North American Pipe Band Championships, and only 5 minutes of downpour happened during our run.
Seriously?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that video that you saw online, yes, that was the only rain that happened all friggin' day. Yes, I'm not better.
No. So I take it you guys didn't win.
You know.
Okay, sorry. Don't mean to bring up nasty.
Yeah, it's just say that's gap a little bit to pour some up. Thanks.
Sorry. All right, this week we're going to talk about a couple actually events coming up. One's called the AV Executive Conference. Another is a little show in Denver called CEDIA. Maybe you've heard of it. A nice blog post from Commercial Integrator giving at least Harry and a couple of the guys in the room the confidence that the customer is not always right. And a congressperson actually doing something nice for the AV industry. I'll leave that as a tease. But first, this past week, there was something called a Hacker Fest. It's actually Black Hat and DEF CON, where a bunch of people much smarter than me when it comes to computers, they go in and they try to hack systems. They try to break systems. They try to, take control of certain things. One of the most interesting things, and this story comes from CNN, was the fact that they start breaking into homes, smart homes specifically. Harry, we'll kick this off with you. How big of a deal is this that the largest hacker con in the world is now starting to break into people's smart homes?
Well, I was going to say, to be fair, they didn't break into anyone's homes at the con. They broke into a demo setup that showed what could be done if you weren't, if you had it set up incorrectly. But it's as criminal. It depends. You've got the intelligent hacker type criminals, and you've got the smash a window and grab a TV off the wall type criminals. So if hackers wanted to steal something from you, the more connected you are, the more connected they are.
Well, that's valid. John, you've written the book on control systems. How do we lock these things down? I mean, Harry's right. If you do something stupid and leave your password as password, or 1234, I mean that's just asking for trouble. But even
it's the same combination I have on my luggage.
I know.
In Canada, it's 16 A's.
Is it 16? That's Canada, and they're just a whole nother kind of special. And look at that, 4 minutes in, and we've already insulted Canada. John, you have written the book on control systems. Besides the fact of honestly trying to lock down your stuff and use intelligent passwords, what else can we do to safeguard these things?
Well, and I should say the book, the areas that I work in are more on shows. I've done some things in residential settings, but I usually just personally stay away from those areas. But I think actually have because security is such a large topic that in the book I just have one chapter on basic security principles, and I think it's pretty much common sense stuff. Like you said, change the default password. I mean, that's most of the things that you would have an issue with. And, if there's no reason to put something online, then don't put it online. But I think you have to look at in the big picture, who's, and I should also say, we have a hacker conference every 2 years here in New York called Hackers on Planet Earth. And I actually spoke at the last two of them. And it's really interesting. Like we had William Binney there from the NSA last summer laying out all that stuff that's come out under Snowden, and I'm like, why is everybody surprised about this? It's all online. You can go look at that. It's pretty interesting stuff. But I think there's two things. One is just common sense stuff. I think that you can but then to take a step back even further than that is who's the attacker? Like, why would somebody want to mess with you, and what are they going to be able to do? So I think you have to think about that first. If you're a bank, obviously there's a big thing. Sorry, my little headset just fell off my head. If you're a bank, obviously you're a real target because they can get something out of you electronically. But if you're a house and I actually have a Nest thermostat. If somebody really wanted to run my heat up, I mean, it would be annoying if I pissed off teenager from next door,
right.
want to do it. But I don't know that I'm not that worried about it. And I have a password.
Turn all your lights on, and heat up, and open the garage door.
Well, that's the thing, Ken. Is PowerSoft is a amplifier manufacturer. You and I were talking at lunch. You guys have control system. You have a DSP built in. You can be connected to the World Wide Web.
Right. Are
you guys, or should manufacturers in general, not just you guys, but should manufacturers in general be worried about it?
There is only so much you can do. So the authentication process with encryption, so that only certain machines can talk to your control system, I would think would make a lot of sense for anybody trying to prevent hacking. So, and we've had it required on several projects that I've worked on in the past, where people are concerned that somebody can just load our software and plug into the network and somewhat get the password and shut all the audio down in a hotel, conference center, or convention center.
Yeah.
So then that whole authentication with encryption comes in from machine to hardware.
Go ahead, John.
Well, I was just saying, is there a reason? Maybe you might have just answered it, but why does a system like that? I mean, I shouldn't say why, but I guess the question to ask is, does a system like that need to be on the internet at all? Because then, obviously, and there's in that same article they talk about people taking over, electronic cars and stuff, but they first had to get into the car and attach to the diagnostic system. So it's like same thing with that. If you don't, one of my rules in my chapters, if there's no reason for the thing to be on the internet, then don't put it on the internet.
Yeah, well, in this case, this was just like an ex-employee or somebody, right, or just a sound guy who wanted to play a trick.
Yeah.
So that was on the property, tied into the LAN.
Oh, internal.
So it wasn't necessarily over the internet.
Well, and I can see a use case where, we were talking earlier about a giant Crestron system that was one of the first Crestron systems that was controlled over a county-wide area. There's a use case for that. I mean, there's a use case for giving the executive engineer of a venue the ability to lock things down remotely and this, that, and the other.
And you have to be somewhat connected to the internet for that.
Yeah,
the thing that concerns me a little bit. I agree with John. It used to be that we didn't really worry about it because it was, you can turn the projector off. Oh, big deal. But now Infocom 100 and a lot of these things, especially at the shows, are talking about full building control in commercial buildings, where you're integrating the security and the HVAC and the energy management and everything through a control system that's monitored. And as soon as you do that, you've now taken all of those disparate systems and given a single access point to go in, and I'm going to turn off the security system, and now I can go in and do whatever I want in the building on the weekend. So that's the concern that I have.
It's a nice premise to any one of a half dozen heist movies that has been taking place in Hollywood over the last 10 years. So,
but I would say, because I think there's an issue of scale here too. Because if you're just doing, for example, we do a big haunted house every fall, and that system, everything's on a big VLAN system, but it's not connected to the internet at all. So we eliminate a lot of the concerns by that. But obviously, if you're talking about building automation, now you need to consult experts at that point, and and really take that seriously. And then you need people with all the specialties in those areas. So I think the biggest thing is, just these articles are good in some way. I think they get alarmist, but I think it's good to make people aware of this stuff. But I think, just think about it would be my advice, and then figure out what you really need to do.
Mr. Shipman, how big of a deal is it that people can start tapping into AV systems and possibly breaking into them?
Well, the problem isn't with it's a big deal, obviously, because students, it's not just the hackers or the super hackers or the people that go to the hacking conventions. It's the 14-year-old kid with a cell phone that can walk in the room, or he can look up the projector and download the parameters to have his new Samsung S4 turn on and off and change channels on TVs and all that stuff. So that interferes with the workflow and stuff. But then also it's the challenge of it. And so many times, as you say, don't lock down the password, or they put the password on a label on the bottom of the access point. Or they, how many production and rental touring companies run around and every single access, you pull an access point out of the drawer of the road rack, set it on top, and underneath it is a piece of gaffer's tape with, Sharpie writing out the IP address and the password and the username. Yep. So it doesn't take rocket science or even your smart hackers. It's the dumb hackers that are the biggest threat, because they don't even know what they're doing.
Well, it's the dumb hackers and the dumb tech that did that.
But all AV systems, professional AV systems, we try to isolate from each other. Audio is only its audio network. Lighting is only a lighting network. Nobody can play with anybody else's stuff. We just put a Digico console in a performing arts center, and the contractor said, we want to tie all these things together so that the Crestron can turn on the console and do all these other things, and that's great, except for when they turn on the video projector, the console didn't like the command that it sent to turn on the video projector. We said keep the console on its own network. So you have to be careful, because some commands for some things do other things to other things. So with telnet commands, you have to be a little bit careful how the control language. What's one word to one machine is a different word to another machine.
I'm just wondering why it bled over when they sent that.
Yeah, well, they were just. It was something that had LAN attached to the LAN port, and it's only supposed to be used for remote control of the console, not for from another PC running the software. So it was just. It may have been a strange coincidence, but I think it was when he turned on the console, when he turned on the projector, something happened to the console.
With the whole AVB Dante thing, the video and the audio are going to be on that same cable.
Yep.
Yeah. No avoiding. So, and control.
And control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hopefully they'll get the commands right.
Just don't use CEC and we'll be all right. So,
and one thing I think with that is that a lot of this stuff is so new to our industry that people have ported over old ancient serial protocols and just stuffed them into UDP packets and stuff.
Right.
And I think
Absolutely, they have.
when they get beyond that, because if you like we were just talking about the console, I haven't messed with Digico, so I don't know how they do it, but. If these commands are targeted to an IP address, then it should have no effect on. You might have some traffic issues, and you can always solve that with a VLAN or whatever. But there's no way that a command that was sent to a specific IP address should affect something at another IP address, unless there's some really poor design in one of the products there. So.
Or the programmer screwed something up, John.
Right. Exactly.
Well, it wasn't an IP addressable port. It was a remote control port.
So it was like a 232.
It wasn't. It was anyway. It was
Whatever. Control port. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's weird. All right.
It still needs IP address. So.
From avinteractive.com, Pioneer is entering the pro audio market with a club sound system package. And the entire time I read this article, the Night at the Roxbury theme song kept going through my head. Thump, 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 thump. Actually, we're going to start with Ken on this because his company made the amplifiers. Ken, you work for Powersoft. We were talking beforehand that Powersoft is actually the amplifier behind this product.
That is correct. We were approached a couple of years. Powersoft's based in Italy, so technically they were approached in Italy a couple of years ago by the people from Pioneer who decided they wanted to enter the high-end club market or EDM market or however you want to
let's
focus
just say
on
club market.
with the big club market.
Yeah.
And I guess they randomly visited clubs all around the world, and they focused in on one club in New York, which I don't remember the name, unfortunately. But we could get that name.
Nice.
And it turns out that the speakers were designed by Gary Stewart, who used to be based in New York and went to Vegas. And Gary Stewart used Powersoft amplifiers in that particular club. So they basically tried to use his design on the speakers, and Gary insisted on using our power amplifiers because the high slew rate and the different things that we incorporate in our products made it sound good. So we entered a partner agreement with Pioneer. They wanted us to make Pioneer branded amplifiers. We would not do such. We told them we'll enter an agreement where you can distribute the amps with your speakers in a package only. Here's some select models, and let's see how this goes. And they just opened the first club in Ibiza about a month ago. That's when the press release hit. I mean, that's one side of it from my perspective.
Well, from the Powersoft side, obviously the Pioneer guys would have something different.
Right, but I mean, from my personal side of this, I've been in the audio business 30 years. I think it's a little scary. The Bose thing, getting back into the pro audio business, is a little scary.
Yeah.
What Harman has been doing, to me, has been a little bit scary. I mean, everybody's saying we are the giants, and we're going to use our brand name, regardless if the components are good. I'm not saying
they aren't, but yeah.
Are or aren't. But it's just this branding image that, you know, Bose can walk into this huge stadium in South America for the World Cup, and it's Bose. Well, they don't know which Bose. Not saying it's Wave Radios, but
it's the Bose stick systems.
But when they get so big, and now Pioneer is sort of leveraging this big thing for. I mean, they've been in the front end of the club market, you know, the mixers and the DJ stuff and the hands-on stuff. Now they want to create the whole system, and. I mean, I think Powersoft amplifiers are great. They fit well into this, and it's interesting. It's an interesting evolution.
Yeah.
I asked other people in the club market because Powersoft tied into AAW quite a bit. We work with Fulcrum, and they're both pretty heavy in the club market. We supply OEM product to Martin, who's in the club market. Martin Audio, not the lighting. So it's it's very interesting. I mean. There isn't many companies from out of the U.S. that have done really well in the U.S. in the speaker world. There is a few. In the club market, I would say Function One is probably the most successful that people thought would never happen. So Pioneer's now got a name, and they've got some products, and they say they want to continue and make more products. So this is just the beginning, I think.
One question I have for you real quick, and if you can not answer this if you don't want. You guys, Powersoft does OEM other people to other companies. Is there a reason that you wouldn't necessarily OEM to
Well, there's only two companies we make rack Powersoft has two worlds, rack amplifiers and modules. We make modules for almost every loudspeaker manufacturer in the high end of the market. In the rack amps, we only supply OEM product branded with their name on it for two companies. It's Outline and Martin. Mm-hmm. And the agreements were done probably over 8 years ago. And we've had a recent pact that we do not want to dual brand our products because it hurts the brand. Yeah. You could either have a strong OEM brand or you could have a strong Powersoft brand. So So when anybody approaches us, it's extremely rare, or we'll try to discourage them just to use our standard product.
Okay. No, it's a good response. Harry, how excited are we that Pioneer's getting into the club market?
Yay!
Jeez, never mind, John.
I'm just, I don't know, I'm reading this thing. It's kind of interesting because they're talking about the multifold hyperbolic horn subwoofer, and I'm just kind of wondering what all the point of all those horn loading is at that at that wavelength. Those things are pretty omnidirectional, so maybe it's just cabinet loading or something. So these specs are always hilarious for the club market. So they have omnidirectional tweeter too, which is always meaning that it's a little pod with 4 very directional tweeters on it, but it's kind of hilarious. I love to look at the actual polar pattern of this stuff.
Yeah, that's true. It's very interesting. Yeah.
I mean, but for club, that's what the whole deal is for that kind of music is they just want a whole lot of bass, and then they love these.
In the lenses, the lenses on the Pioneer box. Nothing bad about Pioneer is that they look like the old JBL lenses from the 70s.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you seen that? So, and then curiously enough, Ben pulled up just now that the designer of the speakers passed away shortly after the agreement. So,
that's
September of 2012.
So they're still using the name, and his wife carried it on, and they have a long-term partnership agreement. So.
I think I met him years ago at something here in the city. But that club sound is really a separate world in a lot of ways. I mean, lots of manufacturers have product that works in it, but if it's not, I would say, precision and quality or high sound quality is not always high on the list. It's often looks and a whole lot of, they love seeing those little hanging tweeter balls that just like blow your head off at 8 kilohertz and then they just want to be vibrated a lot. So
it is a different market from there.
Yeah, the people love it. That's cool. So.
Yeah.
My only thing was we had Pioneer, who had arguably some of the best displays.
Not arguably the best plasma ever.
Yes.
See, I was being circumspect. Anyway,
okay.
Arguably some of the best displays, but they said, nah, we don't want to do that. We're gonna do club speakers. That's why I'm kind of meh about it.
Because you think in 5 years they'll get bored with this and move on and say, we're done with this.
We're done with this. Let's do OLED 10 years after everybody else did.
Doesn't Pioneer still have a video division, or no? They stopped.
After the
plasma.
CES 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. It was like this big announcement: we're stopping plasmas. That's it. This is not. And that was the year that they had the. How did CNET put it? The blackest black they've ever not seen.
So, there you
go. You have anything for this, Mr. Ben?
No.
Okay, good. Because the next story is all yours. Well, we'll start it with you. We have a congressperson from the state of Illinois that I think all of us can actually rally around. Congressman Bobby Rush, representative, a Democrat from Illinois, has introduced a bill to protect wireless microphone users. He says that his bill is because he's trying to outline his concern for the ability of these venues to continue, quote, providing high-quality professional audio for their activities and events. Mr. Shipman, it should, first of all, how important is it for the government to step in at this time when we're selling off different spectrums to say, let's carve out this area here for wireless microphones?
Well, just because they carve it out today doesn't mean they won't hack it up
Well,
tomorrow.
come on, they're trying.
Run it
Somebody's trying.
again.
One congressman is trying.
Well, I think it's up to the FCC, and I don't know that. I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do. Unfortunately, I think it's a great, novel, wonderful idea, but I don't know that it'll go very far. I think they're just going to defer back to the FCC to control and regulate it, and it depends who's in charge.
Well, I mean, Congress does have some power over the FCC. I mean, they're the ones who passed the law that said, we're moving from analog to digital in television realm.
Yeah.
And so they do have some say-so, so this could legitimately have some legs.
I think it could legitimately. Unfortunately, I wish they would do more important things like pass a budget than worry about FCC, than restricting the wireless microphone frequencies. I agree with you. I think it's a great idea. I think they get their fingers into way too many things they shouldn't be messing with.
I said I wasn't going to get political.
I know, dog tags and things like that. I mean, it's not what the Congress is supposed to be doing. It's what the FCC is supposed to be doing, frankly.
So do you think the FCC should mark off an area that's untouchable except for wireless?
Well, I thought they already did.
Well, they sold that one.
Yeah, well,
they sold that one.
Yeah, they did. Things will continue to evolve. If the FCC put it this way, do you regret the fact that 150 megahertz isn't still being used, or 179 was it?
Yeah.
You help me, John. What were the frequencies? It was one. You remember the VHF wireless?
Yeah.
I mean, that's all we cared about back when I was selling HME wireless mics 30 years ago. We just cared about what was in that range, and the only thing we worried about was public safety in the rural towns and stuff. But if we said partition this band for wireless microphones and make it safe for eternity, and they say, okay, where's your 179 megahertz wirelesses now? We'd say, well, we don't really need it anymore. Go ahead and give us this band now. I mean, right now we're representing a manufacturer that has digital wireless, and it's out of the current set-aside wireless microphone frequency range. So as far as I'm concerned, open it up and let everybody jump into the wireless current wireless band, because I've got one of the few systems that'll work.
You're mean.
I'm sorry for being self-serving in that comment. But the reality is things change, and you don't know where it's going to be tomorrow, and it's not really their position.
Just out of curiosity, who is it?
The Line 6 product.
Okay. I had never heard of that. So, Mr. Huntington, not to get political here, I'm trying not to, but it's a congressman and it's a bill. So, has Ben right? Should they even be messing with stuff like this, or should they leave it up to the FCC?
I'm frantically Googling here, but I looked up the Bobby Rush's congressional district, and it goes from Chicago southwest down into, I don't know, it's your neighborhood, I know, near Joliet and all that. I believe that Shore is in that area.
Yeah, exactly. So. That's where I was going to go with this. It's interesting that the article says Shore applauds congressman, and he's in their district.
I bet he
now that has nothing to do with it, Ken.
But I think
I was born a block away from the original Shure factory.
Oh wow!
So I sort of kept touch on Shure, but again, I'm more of an amplifier guy. So.
Yes, but you need microphones for amplifiers to have anything to do with it.
But I do think the wireless stuff we ignored for a long time and just ran sort of. It was, I don't know, mostly legal, but I mean, it was we never had any organization about it. So when all of a sudden, when it all gets choked off, I mean, and at my school, we had to upgrade everything off of it was a 700 megahertz that closed down and stuff like that. Yep. And that's hard for smaller organizations. There's nothing wrong with the mics that we had to change out. But I think they have to carve out some space. Nobody has to do anything, but I think it'd be good if someone, whatever the mechanism is, carved out some space. And there was recently, I'm just looking here on playbill.com from July 29th, a whole bunch of Broadway people went down to the House office building in D.C. and the same guy, Bobby Rush. And along with, I think it was the NFL and some other people. Like I said, I've been on vacation a lot, so I haven't been paying close attention. But and really said, hey, we can't run this. And here in New York, Broadway shows an enormous business, and if we can't, run, hundreds of wire channels of wireless in close proximity, you can't really do these shows anymore. And then, of course, you can't do the Super Bowl, and you can't do film production, and all that. It goes on and on and on. So it's a big mess, but I'm hoping they'll stop changing it. I guess they had a decent plan, I think, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, we're going to sell that spectrum off, and so. But somebody, and Henry Cohen would be a great guy to have on for this. I don't know if you know Henry, but he's a guy here in New York that does a lot of wireless coordination for shows and all kinds of things, and I believe he's involved with he works for he has a company that does this stuff too. But he's like the guy that we all turn to when you have a question about this because it's so complicated. But it may have been him or somebody else was saying that the FCC was pretty surprised because there was so many wireless mics out that when all of a sudden we started saying, hey, what about us? There's 2 million channels of wireless in the country, or whatever the number is. They were like, what? Because they, it wasn't licensed. It didn't need to be licensed. So I think the more anything that happens to raise our public visibility as an industry and make sure these people know that this is really an critical technology for us, I think it's good.
Well, you hit your nail on the head. Nail on the head. Obviously, there's no revenue associated with all the wireless systems that are out there. And if the FCC saw any kind of licensing or any registration or any tag, any permits or anything required, if they saw anything coming from them, then they would see the amount of users and the revenue, and it would be an important factor to them.
Right.
The fact that they can sell bandwidth and they're giving it to us is the biggest problem, I think.
Okay, so here's a crazy question that I'll get killed for. Should we start registering?
Well, if we did, then we'd have a lot stronger voice.
I'm just putting that out there. I mean, I'm not saying that we should be paying $1,000 a license, but 10, 15, 20 bucks, $100 a license. I mean, I've got off the top of my head 20 wireless systems on our campus at our college. We and if we paid $2,000 to guarantee that those work, absolutely we would do it.
Well, and there's some, and again, it's so complicated. You should ask Henry or one of the other experts on it. Somebody from Shore can answer your question too. But there was some white space registration for that, but not everybody needed to do it because the licensing. And it's funny because I used to work at the Metropolitan Opera, and long before I was there, I guess it was in the 70s or something, like they were using a few wireless microphones, never on a Singer. I mean, now they use it for all the HD broadcasts, but never amplifying. But they went on tour and went to Wolf Trap right in D.C., and they actually got complaints and ended up getting fined because they were using these mics without a license. So the problem is that in a fixed installation, that's works well, but on tour, even like here in New York on Broadway, you open the show this week, you got 45 channels of wireless in this building, and then next week the show closes, or it either runs for 10 years or it closes in 2 months. And now you have to, configure the entire thing. So it's a really complicated problem.
Yeah. Harry, you haven't spoke much about this, and probably because it's a political issue too. Is this a nice thing for Congressman Sure? I mean, Congressman Rush to do?
Congressman Sure. I think we do need to. Trying to stay as apolitical as possible.
I know you are.
You know me, Tim.
I know you are.
I think we do need to make sure that there is some oversight happening from Congress on this issue, because otherwise the FCC will do whatever they want, and that will probably not actually be in our favor.
No.
When that happens, because they won't take our needs into account at all if they take any tech needs into account, but that's another story. So I think, yes, it's a very good thing for Congressman Rush to be doing this, to at least, like I think John said, to raise awareness with our industry and make sure that everything is that people know, hey, by the way, if you do this, you're not going to have these shows. You're not going to have the Super Bowl happening correctly. You're not. All this stuff requires a bunch of bandwidth that you guys keep wanting to get rid of and sell off and make money.
Okay. No, that makes a whole lot of sense.
And the one thing just to add to last thought about that is that Verizon and T-Mobile and AT&T, if we're competing head-to-head with them, we're always going to lose. So we kind of need some help in here, because we can't. There's no way that we can afford to buy this. To competitively bid for the spectrum against those guys. I think in the larger thing, there's a value, but not just in straight cash. I can't see how we could ever. We're not going to come up with $4 billion to buy, some space.
Oh, sure we are. City of New York has that in their back pocket.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
You guys should hire Wiener, by the way.
Yeah.
Just because Mayor Wiener sounds an awful lot like a McDonald's character.
He's already got a hard enough job. We don't need to hire a wiener.
All right. You're listening to AV Week. Ben Shipman's here. Ken Blecher's here from PowerSoft in studio with me. John Huntington and Harry Meade are on the far west coast, far east coast. Good Lord, far to east coast. Real quickly, guys, a couple more stories and then we'll let you go. First of all is a blog post from our fine friends over at Commercial Integrator. Newsflash, the customer is not always right. We're going to start this one with Harry because, I guess he's the closest person to end users that we have. I mean, John and I are technically end users, but Harry's the integrator in the group. Is the customer always right, Mr. Meade?
The customer rarely knows what they actually want.
Okay. And how would you say that? Because I know what I want all the time.
When I'm out doing sales, when I have my sales hat on, what I try to do is I try to find out what they want to do, how they want to use a particular system, not what they think they need. Because, I mean, I'm coming at it from the engineer side. They usually have no idea what they actually need in order to get done what they want to do. They've seen something cool or something like that, and it's like, okay, well, how do you want to use the room? How do you want to act? What are you going to try to do in this room when it's done? And that'll make us all happy. And if you just tell me what you want to do, I will make it happen. I mean, you have to be nice when you talk to the customers, but you have to gently steer them away from decisions that will negatively impact the future usability of the new space.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Very,
that was
very well put.
Yeah, that was a nice political answer. Ken, you work with obviously mainly integrators.
Well, I was an integrator for
and you were an
25
integrator.
years.
So, I mean, that's kind of your customer. Whether or not you're talking about the integrator or you're talking about guys like me and John, or even down to the club owner,
Right.
how would you deal with the question, is the customer always right?
Well, it depends, obviously, from what perspective you're looking at it. Me as a manufacturer, the customer is usually the dealer, and on occasion the user, if there's some value-added features or things that might save them money in the future, even though it might cost them more to go ahead. But we've also seen that club owners, think our amplifiers are too fast. We heard last night from an integrator that a customer didn't feel the system sounded right till he heard it distorting. So, then they could damage themselves and the system if they would just let it distort at the rate they designed it. So they had to make it distort at a much lower level, so they wouldn't turn it up to the point of actually destroying it.
Holy cow!
Am I right?
They weren't to say that is not an uncommon thing that happens in boardrooms and stuff. Too.
Right. So I would say the statement the customer is not always right technically. Sometimes they do know what they want, whether it's correct technically. That might be another issue. So.
Okay. That's a good answer too.
I mean, I'm really passionate about audio in general. I've been doing it for a long time, and systems since I was an integrator for a long time, and I have my own expectation of quality and value, and the whole combination, how it all fits together, and in complete opposite with a customer, whether it be a user or a dealer or something to that effect. So, I mean, we can't compete with, $300 amplifiers, which are readily available in every music store. So, can I say that won't work? Yep. No, it will work.
It will amplify the sound.
That's right. That's right. So, and are they wrong for choosing that product? Maybe sometimes, depending on the application.
Yeah.
So.
John, who is? It depends on which end user or which customer we're talking about with you. But would your customers always be right, or would they not always be right?
I forgot who said it already, but I still do a fair amount of consulting work, and I do some big live shows here in the city. And I find, I forgot who said it earlier, but yeah, I think a lot of it is kind of educating the customer or the client about getting to what is it they really want, and not necessarily. I did once. I can say this because it won't tell you, but I do this outdoor thing for the Tribeca Film Festival every year called the Drive-In, and we have 2,000-3,000 people out there. And the first year they did it, it was on a pier on the Hudson, and it was just a total disaster for a variety of reasons. But then they had some guy who's a TV producer came in and told them that they needed circular speakers, and that circular speakers would solve all the problems.
Nice.
And
What? Nice.
So, and it turns out I know who this guy is, and he's a friend of a former employer of mine. And most likely he saw some show where they had some speakers solve the problem and they were circular or whatever. But so the customer thought they needed circular speakers, and what they needed was just a reasonably well-designed system, because and this was, like I said, 500-foot long pier, and the original vendor had done it with one big PA, line array by the screen, and then tried to throw 500 feet to the back, which you can do. And for a rock show, nobody cares. But for film, where you need to understand the words, I mean, that's a big problem. So in this case, so I had to sort of educate them about that. Okay, well, I don't know what circular speakers are, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this, and this is why, and we're going to put these delays in, and we're going to do it for this reason, because sound takes this long to travel, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's something I think you really have to educate them. But I did think one interesting thing the guy said in the article was that sometimes you need to fire the customer, because there are some people that are just unreasonable. And if you're just draining your company's finances, you're spending your own, if you're doing a small consulting thing, if you're not making any money on it in the long run, then you need to get out somehow. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mr. Shipman, Mr. AV rep,
yes, sir.
Is the customer always right?
Well, a couple of different perspectives on that. First of all, unfortunately, these days, people don't know what they don't know. MP3, if that's your reference, if you've only grown up, if you're young enough that you only know lousy sound, you're only going to, your expectations are going to be a certain level, and you really don't know that there's anything better than the lowest quality, offshore manufactured, mixers or speakers or microphones or anything else, and the playback and everything else is based on a cell phone and earbuds. How do you know what good sound really is? The second thing is, so that's kind of one thing, is the changing, reference. But the big thing that sticks in my mind after that one is we did a loudspeaker demonstration in a cathedral in western Kansas, and it was very convincing to everybody but one woman who was on the committee, and she was insistent that if the speaker sounded as good as they sounded from the front of the room, that rather than putting them in front of the columns and interfering with the architecture, she would much rather see them in the very back of the room at the back doors. And why couldn't we do that? And she would not accept no for an answer. She said, well, I'd like to hear them back there. And I said, turn around. That's what they would sound like. Walk to the other end of the room and turn around. They would sound just like that. But she didn't accept and could not be convinced that there was a reason not to put the speakers in the very back of the cathedral instead of the very front of the cathedral. So
much for localization there.
Again, what do you do? Yeah. So that's
you
all
fire the customer. That's what you do.
That's all I have to say about that. But.
All right. Well, good night. Well, I got a couple things. These aren't really. You can comment on them if you would like. How about that? Infocom has a new event for executives this year. It's called the AV Executive Conference. It's September 10th and 12th at the Ritz-Carlton at Amelia Island, Florida. So, Ken, technically you're an executive, so you could go.
I have been to this event about 10 years ago in San Diego.
Yeah.
And held a wonderful round table with Lloyd Ivey together. Yeah. That's the way to do it with Lloyd Ivey.
Well, I guess
do it together. It's a unique event. I'm sure it's changed over the 10 years. I have not gone. I don't plan to go this year.
Right. Well, if you do want to go to infocom.org/AVEC. AVEC. The other thing is if you are going to CEDIA, go to the Women in CE event. The keynote speaker for their breakfast. If you want some more information on that, check out the link on our website. So It's a similar. Good Lord, I can't even talk today. Friggin' CEDIA is the 28th. The breakfast, the Women in CE event is the 28th of September in Denver. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. With us in studio is Mr. Ben Shipman from AVA. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Where can people find you or get a hold of you? Or
through my dealers or my manufacturers.
Very nice. Ken Blecher, thank you, sir, from Powersoft.
You're welcome.
How can people find out about you or Powersoft?
Go to our website, www.powersoft.it is the headquarters.
Is that the Italian end?
Yes,
IT? There you go.
It's a worldwide site.
Very good.
We are a worldwide company. We're so lucky.
All right. Mr. John Huntington, thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you.
Where can people find you or more about you guys?
I have a sporadically updated blog on controlgeek.net. So sometimes I put things up 5 times in a week, and then it goes a few weeks. But usually every couple weeks I got something up there. So.
Okay. All right. And last but not least, Mr. Harry Meade, thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me on. Twitter is Mr. AV Dawn. Yeah. Website for the company is ccsprojects.com. National company, but I'm working out of the Mid-Atlantic office. And Facebook is Harry Meade.
There you go. And if you hook up with Harry Meade on Facebook, you get to see him in a kilt. So
nice.
That's all I'm saying.
Golfing?
No, playing.
Playing drums in a competing Scottish bagpipe band.
Yes.
Oh, very nice.
And his wife is an award-winning tenor drummer.
Yes.
I got it right? Holy crap, I got it right. I never get it right. Tenor drummer. So,
I was going to say, that's what you said when you took CTSD.
Harry and I took the CTSD together on the same day. He's a CTSD and I am not. So
I'm sorry, you gave me the opening.
I
and
did.
I was going to let it go for the entire show.
No. Are you a DMCE, by the way, yet? Okay.
Not yet, so you've got it.
I still
you've
got
that
that
on me for right now.
All right.
For another month.
Okay, so there you go. So tell Kevin I said hey. Hopefully he's your instructor. If you want to follow me, it's TD, Tim David Albright, on Twitter, but more importantly for me, and all the fine folks here that make AVNation what it is, go by the website, if you would, please, avnation.tv. avnation.tv. You'll find this podcast, our education podcast, The Control Show. We have a new AV Social, which is our social media and marketing show, hosted by the very lovely and talented and married to Harry Meade, Miss AV Dawn Meade, coming down the pike in the next week. We also have two projector shows. One's about projectors in general. One is about Picos, so that's coming down this month sometime. So avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. It's all the time we have for AV Week.